Welcome back to the channel. Today, kicking off thoughts with the Mad Forensic Scientist. Today we're going to be talking about glyphosate. So glyphosate's been popping up in the news. That we just secured security defense for production of domestic production of glyphosate, and yeah. So glyphosate is not technically toxic to humans, but I want to dig into that a little bit. So, what is glyphosate? So, glyphosate is brand name is Roundup. So, it's a weed killer, herbicide. It's going to be used primarily to kill weeds, to remove plants that we don't want. Glyphosate picked up in use due to GMOs, so genetically modified organisms. Specifically, plants were modified. They were given genes that protected them from glyphosate, so glyphosate does not work on them. And it allowed for crops to have this gene, and you can spray your crop, kill the weeds, and not kill your crop, not kill your target plant. So Roundup started being used a lot more because of these genetically modified organisms. And now, of course, glyphosate has been studied, shown toxicology that it doesn't have incredible toxicity to humans, and that is because the biopathway that it follows in plants is not the same as humans. So in plants, it's going to basically cause the plant to replicate constantly and kill its cells. So it's going to cause it to basically burn out all its nutrients, cause cell death, and it rapidly kills the plant. But humans don't have that biopathway. So Roundup glyphosate does not impact that human pathway. So basically, it's considered non-toxic to humans. Now, why is that important? Why is it non-toxic to humans, but then we're worried about it being possibly causing cancer in humans, and it's linked to gastrointestinal issues? Why is that? Well, part of that is because when we study toxicity in humans, we don't study the human as a whole. So we don't use a holistic human investigation. We can't use humans in our studies. So whenever you have something toxic, whenever you have something that's going to damage or potentially kill people, you ethically you can't use humans in those studies. So we can't study it in a perfect environment, like in a human environment. So now often we study these things, it's going to be cell cultures. So we have these lines of cells, human cells, either stem cells or we have some immortal cell lines that we use for these testings, and we show that it's not toxic to the cells themselves, which we know that. We know it's not toxic to the cells itself because it doesn't work on the same biopathway. But it's not the cells themselves that are the issue. It's not the human cells. It's the gut microbiome. So the bacteria inside the gut, that is what's being impacted by the glyphosate, and they do have some of the cells do have the same biopathway as plants, and they are being impacted heavily. Now, why this matters? So everyone's gut microbiome is different. So everyone has different gut microbiome, and so we can't study and specifically figure out which bacteria are being impacted because we don't really know. Everybody's gut bacteria is different, and it's going to lead to different impacts, which is why whenever we have these glyphosate issues, we have heavy gastrointestinal issues, which is kind of linked to cancer, colon cancer, stomach cancers, and things like that. Linked. So only linked. We can't really prove or disprove 100% that this is what's happening in the body. It's hard to study that. It's hard to narrow it down and to officially 100% kind of get in there and figure out what is the specific problem. Now, why is this hypothesized? Why do we think that's a thing that It's the glyphosate and the bacteria that's causing these issues. So we see it in case studies. So kind of not experimentally, but in anecdotally. So there's a high influx of what is described as gluten intolerance, whereas they eat breads, they eat pastas, and they're not feeling great after that. Gastrointestinal distress. But then genetically, when we show that they don't have actually gluten intolerance. They don't have the gluten intolerance gene. They're not actually genetically gluten intolerant. So why are they having these impacts? Well, it's been observed anecdotally that people have these gluten sensitivities, and then they'll go to Italy and eat pasta and bread all they want, and they don't seem to have the same impacts. It doesn't seem to have the same problems with this gluten when they go abroad. So it's been heavily hypothesized that it's actually the glyphosate. It's the glyphosate, and it's going in and wrecking their gut microbiome, and that's why you have these seem to be intolerant to gluten. It's not actually gluten; it's actually the glyphosate. So whenever we have like a fever, whenever you treat antibiotics, things like that are going to cause intestinal distress, and it's very similar. So when you're on a fever, your body's trying to kill whatever's there, bacteria, viral. It's going to go on fever, and oftentimes it's going to kill off a chunk of your microbiome, and that's why you have gastrointestinal distress, diarrhea, upset stomach whenever you have a high fever sometimes, because your body is actually not optimal for the bacteria anymore. So that kind of happens with the glyphosate. We don't know what's being done specifically. Is it killing off bacteria? Is it boosting up some bacteria? Is it boosting up bad bacteria, killing good bacteria? It's hard to say, but it's been linked to these issues. Now there's all kinds of problems with linking. So it's been linked to it, but it hasn't been identified because there's a lot of core compounding factors. So we have a poor environment. We have sedentary lifestyles. We have other diets, our ultra processed food diet. A lot of these things could be contributing or the underlying cause for these gastrointestinal diseases, these cancers of colon and stomach. So it's hard to say that is it glyphosate or is it or all these other factors. Personally, I my goal is to reduce out my glyphosate. I don't like it. I don't like it there in my diet. There was a study just recently in Florida that found testing bread for glyphosate, and they found some pretty high levels. Now, these levels aren't toxic in people, like I already said before. Um, Toxicology said that it takes like 19,000 loaves of bread at this concentration to be toxic. And that's true. Toxic at the cellular level and toxic like that, sure. But we don't know what level of glyphosate impacts your gut. What level is going to hurt your gut microbiome, and consistency time, like how over time, what it does to your gut. So technically, organic foods should be avoiding these pesticides. They're supposed to not have the pesticides and the herbicides. Um, the Dave killers did have a slight amount of glyphosate in there. That's most likely from the environment because it's in the soil. It sprays somewhere else, gets in the air, gets in the water system, ends up on their field somehow, and so they have a little bit of glyphosate. So why? Why is glyphosate used on these samples on wheat? Why is it there in the first place? Well, it turns out the way wheat is processed, it is going to be used in a way that whenever wheat is harvested, so whenever wheat goes through its system, it goes through its life cycle, it gets dry, and then it is going to be harvested. So it takes a while to dry out. It takes about 2 weeks of time for it to die, dry out, and be ready for harvest. Well, farmers figured out that if you were to spray glyphosate, so you spray weed killer, you're going to speed up the process. So you're going to kill the wheat, and then it dries out faster. So it saves a good amount of time. And then you can also control your harvest. You can control when they're going to dry out. So you can kind of rotate your crops a little better. And you can choose to speed up your harvest on certain crops, and that allows you to rotate your fields better. So economically, it makes sense for them. It makes sense, and supposedly it's not harmful to humans, so why not? And so obviously, like so much in our world, it is economically motivated. That's why glyphosate is there. That's why it does. That's why they have it. That's why it's in our breads and our pastas and things like that. So to avoid that, I always check your ingredients. Unfortunately, no one's going to say glyphosate on the packaging, so organic is the way to go. Organic should either have none or a much lower concentration of glyphosate. You can also choose to buy your pastas from like Italy. So there's pastas that are imported from other countries, and those are going to have much less levels of glyphosate. So yeah, I say that you should avoid glyphosate at all costs. I don't think it's worth the risk. I understand that maybe it needs to be there. Maybe there's a good enough reason. I don't believe so. I think it's all economically motivated, and I don't think it's great for our environment. I don't think it's great for our systems. But if it keeps prices down and it makes things where people can afford them, is the cost benefit there? Possibly. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's not, but from a toxicological standpoint, I would say avoid it. Avoid hurting your gut microbiome. Avoid those glycophosphates. And overall, it's not worth the risk. Should it be regulated more? Should it be not manufactured in the U.S.? I'm not going to get into that. I'm just giving you the heads up that maybe you should find ways to make sure that you're not ingesting it. And that's what I would do. Organic's the way to go. Pastas from Italy, that's what's up. That's where it's at. And that's what I got for glyphosate. So it's very interesting how it's become very prevalent in our environment now, because of this, because of the GMOs, because of harvesting wheat at a faster rate. Yeah, it's all about time. Because I mean, if the farmer's got to sit there and they run the risk of, 120 acres of land needing to be harvested at the same time, and then they have to store it, process it, move it through, or else I can do it in 100-acre plots or 10-acre plots at a time. I can dose a field, and it'll be ready, and I'll put it up, and then I can ship that out, and then I'll dose another section of the field and cut that up and ship it out. I mean, it makes sense economically. I get it. I get it. But I don't think it's good to be in our bodies. I don't think it's good for our gut microbiome. I don't think it's good for cancer rates. I don't think it's good. So I definitely would suggest trying to avoid it at all costs. Now, I know some of you are probably like, well, I can't afford that. I don't want to pay for that stuff. I get it. I get it. But especially if you're experiencing gluten sensitivity, if you're experiencing sensitivity to breads or pastas, mix it up. Try something different. Choose a different brand. Even just choosing a different brand could reduce the amount of glyphosate, and it could reduce those symptoms and those irritations. Um, Honestly, if you're experiencing an irritation from food, and it's gonna have an impact down the road. Like any kind of inflammation, any kind of irritation, it's gonna build up. It's not the greatest. It's gonna wear your body down over time, wear your system down over time, and that's just not All right, it's not ideal. And these kind of things that work on these bio pathways, they're not meant to be in the body. Our body was not designed to have that. Maybe we'll evolve to have it. Maybe we'll be exposed enough, and we'll figure out these pathways and we'll make it work for us. But we weren't designed this way. This ultra processed food life is not the way to go. It's not good for us. All right, that's what I got for today. I want to take a quick shout out to give an opportunity for guiding the next stream. So, if you're checking out today, if you're interested and you like this kind of topics, environmental toxins, um, forensic casework, drugs, drugs of abuse, therapeutic drugs, postmortem scenarios, let me know. Let me know what it is that you are interested in, and I will make it happen. So post in the comments here. Be sure to follow and just keep an eye out for the next stuff. So I'm gonna be streaming 8:30 and 4:30 Eastern every day. That's the idea. That's the plan. That's the goal. Monday through Friday. And yeah, so be sure to check out the next one. The links are going to be in the description below. So if you want to find our social, find a way to let me know what you want to hear. The simplest way is to pop a comment below, but you can also follow our polls, follow our channels, and you can kind of help guide the stream. The idea is that we're trying to build a community here, the Mad.Forensic.Scientist community. Yeah, I want to just foster this idea and have these conversations, to have put this put this information out there um, for the world to hear, for the world to see. So that's what I'm trying to do here, and that's what I like to see. So if you're interested, check out the links below. But yeah, have a good rest of your day.